We all have our moments where we feel the hype, incredibly energized for what's in store. There are times we feel hype because of the announcement or during this run. In the end, we feel satisfied, rewarded, and probably request for an encore. There are also times where the hype can blind us. In the end, we get a clear view and react not so positively from what we last felt. It's what we call disappointment. It's not to say the anime becomes horrendous, though some can be an exception. It means it doesn't live up to the expectation. It can still be good, but if it doesn't reach to expectation, then it's just a missed opportunity. As for myself, I watch these series without much knowledge outside of audience hype. I usually don't follow the trend, but I have my experiences of letdown. This is the 5 disappointing anime of 2018. I didn't feel much of a letdown from this series. It's the least disappointment compared to others, but it still managed to change my overall view. Junk Dog is an underdog fighter of Megalobox, an evolution of boxing that uses a special equipment known as gear. It enhances the speed and power of his user. Essentially, it's boxing on steroid. Junk Dog has potential for the professional league, but held back by shady business. One day, the champion Yuri challenges him and dominates with ease. Yuri challenged him to reach to the top at the tournament Megalonia. With Junk Dog's lit determination for a rematch, he will strive through challenges that waits for him. It's a simple underdog story, but acceptable. This was designed to pay the homage to the classic series Ashita no Joe. In fact, Junk Dog becomes Joe, and from there on, the series is more or less replica with tweaks here and there. From boxing bouts to the underdog's hardships and struggles, it's Ashita no Joe 101. Although the boxing has evolved, it maintains the foundation of the underdog, especially since Joe doesn't have gear to challenge with. It's the driving force of the story. The characters are good, with the 3 main characters as a team. Joe is the fighter that came from the street and joins the tournament without any expectation from the professional. Already, it sets up for the underdog trend. The action is entertaining and at times thrilling. With the concept of disadvantage and unexpected challenges, it drives you to think, how can he overcome it? Even if you already expected him to win, it's the sequence that will make you wonder. The visual setting is captivating, though it's probably not suited for many. The dystopia setting is designed rather really well, bringing out life in them. It's somewhat ironic. The aspect that may vary to some is the grainy video work. It is most likely done for the added grittiness to its atmosphere, or grasp the sensation of watching an old anime. After all, it's based on the old classic. Some will find it unnecessary or mishandled, but I thought it was good enough. It does complement the art style as well. So where did it start losing its magic? As the story is simple yet effective, the impact starts to wear thin by the third part. There's a bout that was really good, but sadly after that, it loses its thunder and it doesn't gravitate higher. Instead, it becomes an afterthought, which somewhat loses the purpose of the series. The most disappointing part is in fact the finale. It has a good build-up, but when the action kicks off, it doesn't feel epic. It doesn't have much weight. It feels like another bout in the beginning stage. It's lackluster. One will argue it's about the character's motivation. That may be true, and while I did say the characters are good, they are left to be desired as well. There were plenty of opportunity to flesh out more of their backstory or even motivation to get us invested. It loses its energy towards the midway. They're good solely because they are likable, which is good enough for 13 episodes. When it comes to developing them further or go beyond and their personality and handle the interest, it's rather weak. This is just nitpicky of mine, but while I do think the animation is pretty good, I believe it could have handled even better. It doesn't have to be extreme, like with Madhouse's take on Hajime no Ippo, but it could offer a stronger connection to the character's struggles and damages, like make those hits impactful, give them weight that would send you chills. The atmosphere is still good enough, so take it for what it is. I still enjoy this series, just not as much as I wish to have, let alone similar to the fans. By no means, it's not bad. It's pretty decent. I would say go check it out if you haven't already, but it has a strong start that slowly loses its magic by the third part with good characters that have potential to go deeper, entertaining fights that loses the intensity down the road, and somewhat anticlimactic ending that had a really good build. It's enough for me to call it a letdown. I enjoyed this anime as the next person. It's one of the first series that people couldn't stop talking about it, and I can see why. But aside from that scene, I thought it was just decent. Akira is a weak and a crybaby. One day his childhood friend Ryo asks for his help in uncovering devils, which Akira's accepts. However, to his surprise, the place is Sabbath, filled with demons possessing humans, causing a havoc. In order to save Ryo, Akira merges with the devil Almon and becomes a Devilmon, gaining the power to fight demons. After the incident, he joined forces with Ryo to destroy demons that threaten the humanity and their loved ones. This series is an adaptation or retelling of the old classic Devilmon by Go Nagai. There are many changes that have to be modernized, including the use of social media and current technology, as well as character designs. With that said, I have read the manga, so seeing Masaki Yuasa's version with his input was refreshing. However, there were many missed opportunities even without any comparison. The characters started off promising, even if Akira's altered personality is too explicit for the sake of exposed changes. There are side characters that get some decent amount of focus, including the henchman, one in which actually has a good build up to the faithful path, which left me impressed and somewhat sympathetic. Miki, the love interest, is nearly a polar opposite of her manga's counterpart. The original is basically the old age of a woman doing nothing but be a love interest. This version is more outgoing and supportive, which I find myself enjoying and backing her up for her courageous moment, especially in a series dealing with demons. Sadly, the characters begin to falter halfway through the series. Around the last half, the pacing becomes uneven. Because of it, the characters that have an ongoing interesting characters arc have to rush to their endgame development. It's like the director just remembered he's adapting Devilmon and wanted to stay faithful to the original, so he wants to adapt the final story arc. The problem is, whether he only had 10 episodes to work with or didn't plan perfectly, the end result felt crammed in. Therefore, the payoff isn't nearly as rewarding or made sense as what it once promised leading to. Akira, the protagonist, suffers from the pacing as well. It didn't expand enough time to give me a reason to believe his friendship with Ryo. It portrayed to be strong, caring, and genuine. Yet I never felt that sensation. It also doesn't help that he rarely gets any development until the very end. The problem could be the length. If you were to watch the series without knowing the amount of episodes, you would think the series is taking its time to develop the world and characters. Once the finale kicks in, it happens way too quickly. Makes you wonder if it got cancelled. There's a theme about war, but I won't go into great detail. It's not bad here, but there's plenty of suspension of disbelief that you have to accept. I know, anime with suspension of disbelief? Who knew? There's a limit. And this one pretty much asking a little too much, which is saying a lot for this type of series. Also, it is clear as day on the message, while the manga's version was more subtle, yet delivered it more powerful. The art and animation is pretty good. The exotic scenes can be unnecessary since it doesn't serve a purpose, just there to show how kinky it is, I guess. I don't mind the bizarre design of demons though. The art style may not be for everyone's taste, but I like it, even with that odd running animation. The finale does make up for the disappointing aspect with the great cinematic climax and battle. Personally, I like the second last episode over the last. I can see why people went crazy over this. I think the ending is something people don't see often or believe it is new, which is ironic to say the least. While I do get the value, I always feel mixed about it, but since this is not a spoiler territory, I'll just end it here. Overall, it's a decent series. I like the action, the changes to the characters, especially Miki, some of the highlighted moments, and the final story arc because how crazy it gets. But the flaws are noticeable and hard to bypass. The characters fall short, the pacing is uneven, some of the moments don't add up, and the theme, while good, isn't as strong as the original. It's a mixed bag, but I don't mind watching it again. Take it for what it's worth. Another Netflix series? Another disappointing result. Again, it's an entertaining series all in all, but some elements need some tuning. Keith is the legendary investigator of the Royal Police Force, RIS. Together, they will solve the case of a double murder involving with the serial killer, Killer B. However, there will be other crimes that will collide with the main case by a mysterious criminal organization. Will Keith and others prevail through troubling events? I didn't know much of the series before binge watching it. My interest stemmed from the sensation that resembled to Psychopaths. Outside of the setting and characters' design, the tone and atmosphere indicates its inspiration. However, the characters are friendlier in tone, so you will get goofy expressions and comedic moments. With Psychopaths, they are more down to earth. The synopsis got me believing that it will be a full-fledged detective mystery. It turns out there is a supernatural portion involving with Koku. It delivers combat action in supernatural fashion, superpower and all. After my time with the series, I wish it wasn't part of it. The premise of the series is to have two stories in one. Granted, it's really one big story, but it's basically two main plots collide that eventually relate. With that said, I could have gone without the supernatural element. When it happens, it takes me away from the grounded, realistic approach of detective mystery. Sure, there are series that does involve with supernatural entity, but this series technically has two protagonists, and one with the power is not all that interesting. If anything, it's the characters from that side that convinced me to be disapproval with it. Koku is more of an angst character with not much of a personality outside of vengeance, or a typical guy coming out of tragic events. Yes, it is sad and harsh that a boy underwent that moment, so it is expected for him to feel this way, but a layer to his character is warranted. The other characters are disappointing as well, especially Yuna. She is presented as a strong woman with her persona and shades that warn us that she can be dangerous. In one episode, she will disappoint you tremendously. It's comical, yet sad. On the other hand, you have Keith with his police comrades side of the story, and while the mystery isn't exactly brilliant, it is entertaining. It's because of Keith that pretty much carried the show. He has a backstory and dilemma that you can get into. You know his troubles and demons. His focus is more pronounced than other characters. Not to mention his plot to uncover the serial killer is more engaging than essentially a revenge story for Koku. The side characters aren't bad, but their characterization is left to be desired. Lily, the heroine, is not bad. I do like her attitude and personality, but she doesn't get much moments here. You can argue the female cast isn't written well, but I am not so sure on that claim. Despite the shortcomings with Koku's plot, it does come together with Keith's plot, essentially bringing two plots into one big story. It's actually not bad, which means the story isn't bad either. The twists and turns are predictable, but there are moments that is engaging and maybe catch you off guard. The pacing isn't bad, but it can be slow at times, especially when one side isn't as riveting as another. I will say the one thing I do like about Koku's plot, even though I wouldn't mind being entirely absent, is the action. The animation is pretty solid and some moments have some really nice visual. Same can be said for Keith's plot, only it's more like a crime case like Law and Order, rather than fighting kung fu and whatnot. It is clear production IG gave the staff time and money to give their debut to Netflix a strong impression. For presentation, it is pretty pleasing. The ending is not bad, but there's this feeling of a cop-out that kind of irks me. The best way I can put it is, this series is merciful compared to Psychopaths. While I have problems with his dull moments, okay to odd decisions with some of the characters, and questionable choices for the plot or plots, I was entertained with his good elements. I shouldn't be that upset, now that the studio is working on the sequel. Perhaps I can treat this one as an introduction. I'll definitely check out the sequel. I may be disappointed here, but if one can learn from their mistake, it can only go up from there. Well, crap. I thought I was getting myself a haiku or a sports series that can't be presented as fun. Instead, I got something else, and that something else was infuriating. Ayano Hanasaki is a first-year student that has an incredible badminton ability to surpass others effortlessly. However, she refused to play. Nagisa, a third-year student, practiced days and nights to become the best player in Japan. The two meet in the same high school, and with their club colleagues, the two will engage various rivals in a sport that will put their spirit to the fullest. It's amazing how the synopsis sounds appealing and straightforward. It may sound like your ordinary sports genre series, but that's perfectly fine, as long as you can provide the entertainment, the energy, likable characters, and high-raising tension of the game. It's all good. If you were to ask me, what synopsis you read that ended up completely different from the real material, I would say this series. What it gave me instead is an overly melodramatic scenarios with questionable characters and lack of amusement. But at least the presentation is flashy. The beginning was fine. It started with Ayano struggling to like badminton since it stated that she didn't want to play. Nagisa also has her own share of problems at the start of, but she does slowly resolve it, and by episode 3, if I remember correctly, everyone is in the same link. The characters were starting to go places, have me attracted to them and their goals. It's like the beginning of a delightful team, the coming of age story. After that start, it transitioned to a slow but reasonable development for Ayano to get into the game. Same can be said for others. It was fine. Then it becomes an endurance. The synopsis feels more about the first 3 episodes, not the rest of the season. I know it can only review so little, but the tone and direction isn't what it was said. It is nothing but overly melodramatic. Don't get me wrong, there were some earlier as well, but they are basic, tolerable level. It's when it reaches to the second half that becomes the problem. It is not personal based on the sports itself, rather their life in general. It's too revealing, so no spoilers. Easily, the weakest part is the characters, and for a sports series, that's bad. I don't mind if the series wants to focus more on the drama over the game itself. It can focus on the psychological side, which is fine, like One Out. However, it becomes overbearing when everyone treats it life or death. There are series that treat the sports serious, but it never goes too overboard with that in mind. They win or lose and move on. I understand the concept of people taking it serious could present realism of a person, but if that is the case, then it did poorly. Because of it, the characters come off either average or dislikable. Sadly, the latter occurs more frequently. While there are characters with tolerable personality, there are plenty of characters that you don't know if you should accept or not. I don't know if the voice actor does it too well, but one character who is designed to be good has this so what attitude going on for whenever he loses, and it's frustrating. I honestly thought he was designed to be the rotten egg of the team, until the apparent development that says otherwise. Many characters change quickly for the sake of good morale. I don't mind morals, but some change too quickly. Then we have the protagonist Ayano. She is a strange case. I get that people want a badass or ruthless aggression protagonist, and I guess she delivers that. The problem is the likability. Many characters can be a badass, but not only they back it up, but retain likability. They don't take it on someone else. She, however, is a bona fide antagonist. I know series has this moment, but this is only the first season. Why does it feel like I'm watching the third part? A character can snap or crack. They can alter their persona. This, however, happened early on and it carries on for the rest of the runtime. I am aware the intention is to make Nagisa as the protagonist holder, but it's hard to invest when the characters are flip-flopping. It's a serious way to create the dynamic of fated rivalry. It didn't have to be that complicated or infuriating. This could be seen as an introduction stage, but it's tough to endure. This series was hard to sit through for me. Aside from those problems, the animation is pretty good, which is a bit of a shame. The game itself can be thrilling to watch, especially the last one with cool visual style. If we have more of those with characters before the last half begin, it would have been amusing. I don't think this anime is bad, but it is frustrating to sit through. Not all characters are like what I said, but there are plenty enough to make me think so. It's possible the manga is more tolerable and reasonable, but as an anime, I can't say. If you want to watch for the games, it is enjoyable in its own rights. Otherwise, wait for another lesser known sports to get attention. Have you ever wondered when will be the time you should stop following the hype train? Look at this anime. Have you ever wondered how does it feel to be disappointed during your watch time? Look at this anime. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to be furious over a simple anime? Look at this anime. It's incredible that from this point forward, I should go based on my instinct and nothing else. Granted, that should have been the case all the time, but this one certified it. In the distant future, the giant beasts known as Calaxosaur have driven the humanity to the brink of extinction. Children are trained to pilot mechas known as Franks, the only weapon that can take down their foes. Hiro lost the motivation to pilot due to failure as a suitable pilot. Upon walking down the forest, he encounters a mysterious girl with horns, codename 02. After the sudden attack that led to her partner's death, she takes Hiro as her next partner, one in which sync perfectly. Is this the drive Hiro has been searching for? At what price will it cost him? It's one of the first series released in 2018, and the noises it made was hard to ignore. I assume it's due to the collaboration of A1 and Trigger Production as well as Cloverworks that brought the attention. It does sound like a hell of a hybrid. I was going to watch it anyway, but the hype risen my expectation. For the first half, I would say it was entertaining. It wasn't anywhere near the hype people made out to be, however. The concept, mainly the functionality of Franks, is foolish and obvious attention. Even though it has meaning to the theme, it is unnecessary. The character drama, especially the love triangle, was a bit of a headache, but we'll go deeper very soon. Aside from some questionable choices, I was enjoying the battles. It has some really good animation, especially when Trigger's touch gets involved. The soundtrack, from what I can remember, is pretty good as well. There were some episodes that was directed really well. The backstory flashback is the most noteworthy one, though that's past first half. Despite not reaching my expectation, I would have been fine with it. Where did it all go wrong? If everything were to remain the same as the first half and improve itself, it could be at least enjoyable and perhaps even pretty good. In fact, it should have ended with the first half with a couple of extra episodes and leave the rest to our imagination. But my god, did it hit rock bottom in the last half. The story becomes ludicrous when it involves with the key of jumping the shark. You know you are in deep trouble. I don't know if I want to spoil, but everything you know instantly drops as soon as the new enemy appears. The backstory to the world helps more or less, but it doesn't disengage the problems with unnecessary subplots and paths that lose your early interest. The main problem is how it shifts into incredibly high gear to the revelation of his world. The transition was hard to comprehend because of lack of build-up. Not to mention, it doesn't feel like the earlier episodes anymore. It becomes a parody to his own genre. The characters were serviceable, but the last half made them worse. The love triangle is cringeworthy. It's not even necessary for this type of series, even though it shoots itself in the foot later on. What's worse is that they actually finished it around 4 or 5 episodes in, only to bring it back because it was so important. I hate this because it can damage a character severely, and this one is no exception. It's heavy drama for no reason. There are plenty of highly questionable paths or subplots for some of these characters. I assume the director or the writer didn't know what to do with them, so they just give them what they believe to be adult theme. It is trying to be deep and give strong morals to the theme, but they are just head scratching at best. I won't go into details, but it is unnecessary. What was wrong to be supportive and try to find love normally in the first place? Also, there is one or more character that suddenly ends up with a new personality because he or she was nothing until now. 02 also changed drastically after the big development and becomes more of, I'm only here to be waifu for fans, and by that, I mean just be there and nothing else. How inspiring. The big plot twist is where it kills the series as a whole. It's practically jumping the shark move that ultimately throw all theories and interests away. At least in Gurren Lagann, it was already self-aware of its craziness and doesn't shy away. But that's what makes it enjoyable. Same can be said for Kill la Kill. This series, however, can't match because the tone is uneven. Sometimes it wants to be dark and gritty, sometimes it wants to humor in a very light-hearted atmosphere. The problem is, it still takes itself very serious. It is nothing wrong on doing so, but with many awkward plot points and confusing atmosphere, how can I engage with its story? The only good point is the ending, and it's not only because, finally, it ended, thank God. It's not a bad ending in its own right. I guess because the moral of the story is at least normal and straightforward, and that's enough for me to be pleased. But sadly, reminder of what happened before, and how it all lead up to it dampened my investment, so I didn't care so much. It is amazing how SSSS Gridmon, the series that seems to be lost in the shuffle in the West, is vastly superior to this, and I hardly compare. But thank God for that series, because this one hurts trigger. Even if it is a collaboration, it still does. I honestly have a lot more to say about this series, but I don't want to drag on anymore. Bottom line, this series is a huge mess. I wouldn't be surprised if someone calls it the worst anime of 2018. It won't be in my list, but I would say it's a dishonorable mention. I don't know, maybe I just feel sorry for the staff. Don't watch this anime. If you do, that's fine. For me, I am not willing to go through the headache again. No matter how many times I would watch it, it will remain as my disappointing anime of 2018.